In fact, there have been several meetings on this subject in MOPNG recently. Probably there is one more meeting today in the afternoon. So this is very hot topic and very relevant and pertinent. So we have three important panelists in this session. Ashish ji, you already know him. Dr. Mahesh Giridhar. Mahesh ji. And Mr. Roshanlal Tamak. So I'll introduce Mr. Roshanlal Tamak is the Executive Director and CEO in Sugar and Ethanol Business of DCM Shriram Limited. He brings over 3 decades of transformative experience in Indian sugar sector. His strategic leadership has fostered robust growth, acquisitions and successful greenfield expansions at companies including Balrampur, Dhampur, Mawana and Olam International. They are also setting up one CBG plant that is almost under commissioning now, I think maybe in this month or next month. Yeah. So we requested him, basically sugar industry follows some pricing model. We requested him to share his experiences of last 10 years, how the sugar industry, ethanol pricing has been, and what kind of model should be adopted for CBG. So Ashish ji will drive this session, and he will take it forward from here. Thank you.
So before we jump into the pricing part of it, I think it is important to understand the existing offtake mechanisms, what we have at the moment. Do I have all the years with me? Yes, okay. This is important. This is going to hit your top line, bottom line, everything, right? We have two offtake modalities. One is Satat, the second is the CBG, CGD of synchronization scheme, right? We will again go through a couple of numbers. The objective of sharing those numbers is to just make it transparent. The idea is not to instigate you against other stakeholders, but at least आपको पता होना चाहिए कि what are the cost structures, how the whole build-up happens, and what are the kind of margins you have. So as I said, before we jump into the pricing part of it, we'll talk about the offtake, Satat and the sync scheme. And then in addition to that, we also had the direct pipeline, development of pipeline infrastructure, the DPI scheme introduced by MOPNG. The intention of this particular scheme is to establish grid connectivity with with CBG plants, let's say ideally within 50 kilometer. It is further extended for another 25 kilometers. So overall, let's say 75 kilometer support, wherein the first 50 kilometers are supported by 50% assistance and the balance 25 kilometer is supported, I think, with a 15% assistance. So net about 28.75 CR support could be availed up to 75 kilometers. It's a fantastic scheme, but unfortunately it is just on paper. There is not a single project which has got, or maybe I was told last week that there's one project which has come up now, right? So I stand corrected. It is 7 महीने के बाद या 6 महीने के बाद एक project आया है अभी. So that's the problem here. Here the trigger, the initiation to apply for the scheme is with the CGD. Now, if the CGD doesn't trigger, no projects will come into this. And why the CGD doesn't trigger it? They have some very fair reasons for that, and one of the biggest reason, what I understand makes sense, is that any kind of pipeline inch kilometer connectivity, what they will end up establishing for getting the CBG plants connected, that does not fall under the MWP, that is a minimum works program, which they've been given, they bid for a particular GA, and as part of that bidding, they have given that kind of commitment to establish a certain number of retail outlets, or to establish pipeline connectivity, or to establish PNG domestic connections. Now this bid does not become part of the MWP, and that is the reason. There are 2-3 other reasons, but those are minor topics. That's, I don't think so it's a big thing, but this is something which really impacts them. Result being, the DPI scheme has not taken off. Second is, there is also work happening that why can't we inject the gas directly into the trunk pipeline infrastructure. So there is also a lot of discussion going on. There is no policy yet. The topic is more about the gas specifications. So of course the existing standard at that level, those that quality of CBG cannot be injected into the trunk, into the transmission pipeline. And this is where I think whoever has been associated with the industry for a while, these discussions have also been going on for, I think, more than a year now, that the gas specification standards are due for revision from 90% methane going up to 95 or 96% methane. Once that happens, only then a topic like trunk pipeline injection can actually take off. So again, both the topics related to establishing direct grid connectivity is not moving at the moment. Right? Whatever you get to hear from whichever stakeholder at whichever forum, it's all on paper, nothing on the ground. So I'll talk more on the two schemes which are actually running, the Satat scheme and the Singh scheme, and would like to share a couple of insights. Though I'm sure if you are operating your units, you are also familiar with the numbers. Maybe it will just get validated. Okay. Sorry. So the basic premise here is that when we get into, we'll start with Satat first. How many are working on the Satat model over here, just to get an idea? Okay, we have a few, right? So Satat, basically the commercial agreement period is, let's say, 15 years over here. And I'm assuming, so when we say Satat, we are supplying to retail outlets and via cascades, right? So commercial agreement period 15 years, I'm assuming a sale of 1 TPD, that's my assumption. Let's say we are talking about operating 90% of the time, right? Which means 329 days. First block is to understand what is the capex which is done by the OMC over here in the retail outlet. Now, whether it is a Coco or a Dodo, company owned, company operated, dealer owned, dealer operated, right? So both models are there. So the investment will range anything between 1.2 CR to 1.9 CR. 1.2 CR in case of a Dodo and 1.9 CR in case of a Coco. Again, plus minus, thoda bahut deviation ho sakta hai, but mostly this is these are good numbers. So this is the kind of depreciation or the from the per what is the rupee per kg element over here in case of a dodo and a cocoa. So 2.4 or 3.9 rupees. That's one element. Now let's look at the OPEX part of it. Now OPEX largely is related to the compressor handling. And mostly the OMCs give it on a AMC, and the AMC charges is roughly about 10 lakhs for the year. In addition to that, we have the electricity charge, 0.85 rupees per kg of gas produced sold. Then we have the manpower cost, we have the dealer margin, we have the OMC margin. So ye sab karke, we come to an OPEX for a 1 TPD sale comes to about 5.6 rupees or 4.6 rupees. That's my OPEX. And CAPEX, OPEX combined, we are talking about 8 to 8.5 rupees, right? More or less, plus minus मेरे ख्याल 50 पैसे इधर उधर हो सकता है, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं होगा, right? And my current RSP, I'm talking about Punjab at the moment, right? Of course, the RSP will vary depending on whichever region you are in. So 92.75 is my RSP, which includes my GST, right? The Satat model is currently at a 80%. That the CBG producer gets 80% of the RSP, right? Now, going by this, the OMC share comes to about 17.85, right? You might be familiar with all the different creative slabs which have been made, right? I call them creative because they're genuinely creative. So, all those slabs have been made. जो CBG का share है, that comes to about 70.48, right? Which is the mean value of that particular slab, right? And excluding the GST part. So ye karke I get, the OMC share is about 17.85. The balance is coming to the CBG producer, which is including delivery up to 75 kilometers, which was very conveniently increased from 25 to 75, right? So the contribution margin for the OMC in rupee per kg will be roughly about, from the share I've taken off my OPEX, right? And that's how I get my contribution margin. So we are talking about anything between 12 to 13 rupees per kg. This is the annual figure, that what is the annual contribution margin at a OMC level, which means my current payback of the investment which was being made is going to be back in 3 to 4 years, 3 to 4.5 years. Damn good investment. All of us should be on that side, right? But yes, it relies on the basic assumption that you are doing a sale of 1 TPD, which I know is not true, right? We do about 2 tons also, we do about 300 kgs also. So this is, yes, one will have to take some assumption. So 1 TPD, my point is, agar we reduce that 1 TPD to 500 kgs also, your payback period is still going to be, there's enough buffer to play around here, right? The message of all of this is that 80% can be quite conveniently improved, increased in the favor of the CBG producer today, because the CBG producer is struggling because of the other revenue streams not existing. So this is on the Satat part. Fairly straightforward to understand. Now the second scheme what we have, that is the sync scheme, that is where there is a bit of complexity. Because there it is directly, we are talking about the APM prices over there. I'll try my best to keep it as simple as possible, but it's important for you to at least get a gist of it. You will probably not get 100% of it. So first of all, what we are trying to do here is, so when we talk about sync scheme, we are talking about CGDs, right? I requested them to make it a little sharpened, but not much. Excuse me, ये projector को कुछ कर सकते हैं? थोड़ा image sharp करना है, ये बहुत blurred आ रहे हैं numbers. Hello? ये थोड़ा blurred, हाँ? अरे It's not, the laptop is not the culprit. I think it's the projector which needs to be. Can we have the lights off?
Particularly this one, first one.
Does it help?
The first row. This one. And then can we get the section?
No. I'll try and coach you as much as possible, right? So, the first is when we are doing any kind of gas analysis, let's say if we get a test report done, you will get always in megajoules energy terms. अभी megajoules को हमें एक तो इतना सारा jargon create किया हुआ है, वो आधी चीज़ें वैसे ही नहीं समझ आती हैं, right? So abhi we'll first convert the megajoule to MMBTU, right? So you just follow the factors. Don't go after the numbers right now, right? So if I look at CNG at a purity level of about 94.8% and a CBG at a purity level of 95.9%, you will see what the gas composition looks like. The point being, CBG at this will be marginally lower in terms of energy. Yes, because of the higher hydrocarbons present in CNG. I think by now everybody knows that, right? The way we will increase the purity of CBG, we will start matching, it will still probably not, even at a 95, 96%, there will still be a marginal difference, right? But it's not going to make a big thing. But yes, if you are at 90% methane, then yes, then you will hear the OMCs which will be complaining that, okay, aapka gas, sahi nahi hai. People are complaining, mileage nahi aa rahi hai, the engines are getting some problem. That is to some extent may be correct, and that is primarily due to the methane purity over here. So I think collectively as a CBG industry, everybody should be preparing for a 95% plus kind of a purity. That should be a message across. So there should not be any discussion on the quality part, right? The important part to understand here is, let's just focus on one column and see how the build-up happens. Bagi sub is more or less similar, right? So we are talking about 4 scenarios here. One is where CNG is being sold at a RO, retail outlet. The other is CNG is, it's being sold via a pipeline. And then comparing it with a CBG model. So first is, let's understand जो CNG RO via pipeline, जो first case है हमारा. Now the APM gas as on date is about $6.5 per MMBTU, right? This is established as a standard figure. Then on top of that, we add a VAT, Gujarat VAT of 15%. Then there will be a GAIL marketing margin on top of it of 5 rupees per MMBTU. It will then further have the pipeline transmission charges. There are different zones depending on what is the proximity from the port. Zone 3 is the highest. That is what we have taken. I'm preparing it from my plant case, which is in Punjab, which will fall under Zone 3 category. So let's come to the point here is 37.7 is the landed cost at the CGS. After paying the VAT, the pipeline transmission charges, converting into kg and all those things. So, abhi 37.7 rupees is what we get. Okay, the landed basic price at the CGS. Now, on top of that, we have the VAT, which is paid by CGD to GAIL or the trunk line operator. The GST gets paid in case of CBG, but not in case of CNG. So you will see that only in alternate columns over here. Which basically means this is my, after all the taxes and everything, this is my landed cost at the CGS, 39 rupees. Okay. The O&M expense for CNG, CBG sale at RO only, right? Including the logistic cost. Again, the assumption is I'm selling 1 TPD. That will come to roughly about 5 rupees is my O&M. We will look at this green column at the end. Okay. So we will have to build the price or the cost from both sides and then derive the margin. It is not a bottom-up build-up. So we saw how the landed cost at CGS is, and now we'll do the reverse. We will do the reverse means we are coming from the market side कि the market retail selling price is 92.75. अभी इसको उल्टा calculate करते हैं, ठीक है? So 92.75 में से first of all since we are talking CNG तो इसमें VAT लगेगा, right? So VAT in case of our case Punjab would be about 14.3%. So again excluding taxes we are talking about 81.1. Then you will have dealer margin, OMC margin, you will have VAT paid by the OMC to the CGD, excise duty, all these things, right? Taxes all over the place, right? So ये सब cost करने के बाद I come to a margin of, I've got the top, I've got the bottom, and now I derive the margin for this particular model, which comes to about 24 rupees. 24 rupees is the margin in case of CNG. Okay? But of course, the CGD is investing heavily in developing that infrastructure. So we are not eyeing that margin, but it is important to understand that this is the kind of margins and cost structures are existing. Okay? Similarly, if we look at other scenarios where CBG is being sold either via CBG sale to the retail outlet or if you are injecting CBG directly into the grid. When you are selling CBG at a retail outlet, there are quite a few tax components, quite a few cost heads, like there is no pipeline transmission charge, right? There will be no VATs, right? There is no excise duty, right? So ये सब eliminate हो जाते हैं. Bottom line being, at a RO level, the margin what is there 24 rupees in case of CNG becomes 43.2. You see this case, CBG, RO, cascade, and if you are injecting it into the grid, let's say there is no plant, I think it's maybe one or two plants. I mean, we are taking the gas to the grid and then injecting it. So in that case, it's the column E, that is the CBG RO via pipeline. The margin reduces as compared to selling it on the retail outlet. That is why you might come across a scenario that the CGD is not very enthusiastic about you injecting into the grid. Right? But his profitability or margin is still going to be better as compared to selling CNG. Right? This is how it looks like. These margins could be plus minus 2, 3, 4 rupees here and there, but the message here is there is enough buffer here to play around with and ease the pain of the CBG part. That is something which, and it is existing on both sides. On the Satat scheme also, as well as the Singh scheme. There's enough buffer. Okay. Any questions, any part which, yeah, please.
Include logistic cost for the 8 rupees, sorry, the up to 75 kilometers cascade based.
So both the schemes, when we talk about 80% of RSP or 1380 per MMBTU, it is inclusive of delivery up to 75 kilometers. It includes.
It includes.
Yes.
It takes care of the 75 kilometer policy.
Yeah, Jay.
So this is assuming that GAIL or whoever is buying from you is like GAIL definitely has the retail outlets and they are asking producers to supply through cascade to the retail outlets rather than feeding in the pipeline. Like,
so as part of the TPS, that is the tri-party agreement, the interface the CBG producer will have is with the CGD and not with GAIL directly. Though you are billing it to GAIL, right? Yeah. But you are supplying to the CGD.
Okay. So, I mean, from here it seems that if you are supplying in to a retail outlet in cascades, that is good for the operator of or the that is good for GAIL or the CGD operator.
It's better.
It's better.
Yeah.
And then your argument is that why don't they pass on the benefit?
We are not saying that. Okay. I'm just saying that this is what the numbers are. You can derive your own conclusions. So that is the reason I would not want to share these things. These things have been collected from the market. Now, the message here is there is a lot of buffer here, and when we see how the APM gas price buildup also happens, right? So even when we talk about the current APM price of $6.6 or 6.57 to be precise, what is existing today, that already factors in CBG volume. Otherwise, my APM price is 6.5. The impact of CBG is 0.07 in that.
So I'm not getting like why you present this, because no gas companies in the room probably.
For us to understand.
Okay.
It's for you to understand that when you are talking to a gas company, you should know your numbers.
See, I always thought that they're getting gas at a certain price. They're not making margins. They're actually making more margin. They're making more margin on CBG. When Satat was launched, most oil companies stood there and said, "We are doing it for the nation. Even 1 rupee is enough for us." Okay. If that is the case, then we should follow that path. That's all we are trying to conclude in this workshop.
And this has been taken up with the ministry also. So it's not that it is only. आपको यहाँ पे भड़काने के लिए नहीं बता रहा हूँ.
No, but just from like the gas companies say, one is you agreed that impurities hoti hain, it will destroy my customer base, this and that. And the other is that it's not really profitable for them to do all this, like giving a pipe to your plant and getting the gas to them. Or if you do cascades, then 3-year payback is very good. So you are investing in the cascades or they are investing?
We are investing.
Okay, but then they'll say, okay, good, because you should do it because it's a good payback period that is there.
No, the payback is for the OMC, not for us.
Okay.
We are talking about the investment what he's made in development of that retail outlet. Her retail outlet pe he will need to have a stationary cascade.
Yeah.
He will need a dispensing, right? And he will have some a person to manage the show, electricity charges. So that was the 1.2 or 1.9 CR built up.
Okay.
So to
it's on
recover
their
that,
end.
Ashish, just to add, that too is only in 15% of that CBG is being off-taken today under Satat. 85% is going in sink, as per the data, right? Which only for that 15% you have a specific RO. For that 85% you are not putting a specific RO for CBG. It's actually same RO where you are supplying CBG as well, and they are selling CBG CNG at the same place. So
and there the
there is no
argument,
investment.
See, in any case, the CGD has to put up the retail outlet because that's part of his MWP.
Exactly.
And he's already been paid for that, right? So there is no investment, there's no capex element over there, right?
Actually, just one clarification. So this 30 rupees odd or 40 rupees odd, what is their margin, is being it's basically coming out of the subsidies, which is only increasing the gas price by 0.07. That's correct, right? That's the understanding.
I'll share that as well.
I think it's important to show that.
Because I think people are thinking it's our economics. No, it's not our economics. It's
No,
their
it's not our economics.
It's unbelievable because then the gas people should be running after you.
And I don't know whether they know this. That's
No, the smart ones know it.
Get into the gas retailing business.
No, let's not be under this impression that the gas people don't know it. Of course they know it, absolutely. Do you have a choice? अभी तुमने गैस बना दिया, फ्लेयर थोड़ी करोगे. So we are not having that kind of a negotiation position right now. That's a fact, right?
But Ashish,
जी.
you have to find out some other market for the gas.
बिल्कुल, right?
Who option will explore?
Why don't
Wo-
you sell directly,
Like
Sell directly to?
Not
this
from-
industry issue that you can sell directly to industries who are switching from coal to gas?
नहीं प्रॉब्लम ये नहीं है प्रॉब्लम ये है CGD नेटवर्क में आप इंजेक्ट कर रहे हैं and you are utilizing CGD but you are not injecting into gas grid where open access just like electricity policy you can get a benefit of open access. If it is so, Ashish, just a minute. If it is so, the gas produced in Punjab and Haryana can be used in the south. That's not notified. That is what the policy recommendations should emerge out.
Sorry, that's not Vasundhara. What did you say?
This policy recommendations should
Correct.
be in this direction.
So the discussion is good. That was the objective कि थोड़ा पता चले, right? So I'll also share one more. I know too many numbers. I'll try and again simplify it. So we need to understand how the APM with our CBG produced, how does the APM price get impacted, right? So again, lot of conversions, MMBTU and densities and all those things. The point here being, if I look at, I think the important numbers to understand here is today, the current CBG volume is assumed at 100,000 SCMD by GAIL, right? Though the actual number is roughly around 67,000 for the period April to November 24. Why this is important to understand is that in my built-up of APM, I have already assumed 100,000 कि इतना तो आ रहा है, but the actual is 67,000. So I am also, whatever price I'm getting 1380 per MMBTU, that's already to some extent discounted over here, right? That's one. Then we talk about, okay, what is my total current CGD demand for APM? And जब हम APM बोलते हैं, we are talking about CNG, PNG, that comes to about 27.8 mm SCMD. That's the current demand. Out of that demand, about 59% gets allocated to them, right? The rest they have to source in the form of LNG, RLNG, right? What they are importing. So this 59% is the allocation. Now we assume that how this particular sector is going to develop, there is a growth of about 12.5% in the gas market. These numbers are again coming from authentic sources like GAIL. And GAIL also says that every year there is going to be a reduction in the allocation. जो अभी 59% है, that will reduce at the rate of 7.5% reduction every year. Okay, so this 59% will come down to about 18% by 2030. What do you see in this this row? I also can't read there. So just believe me what I'm telling you, right? So the allocation goes down from 59%. The logic being हर साल 7.5% decline हो रहा है. Which basically mean, if I look at the current, current financial year 2024-25, based on the actual CBG, about 0.6 blending or mixes happen to the APM, and 0.4% is still open, right? So, जो already account हो चुका है. But reality is that only 0.6 has happened. Why all of this is important here is that if I go into my sync scheme model, which says that 1380 per MMBTU is what we get, plus 8 rupees of compression charge we get, right? We are talking about different scenarios, that why our ask to MOPNG is that this 80% needs to be increased to 90%. And if we increase it to 90%, what is the impact happening on the APM? Are we really changing things very significantly or not? So let's say you see different scenarios, 80, 90, 95 and 100%, right? So you see the figures here. So 1380 becomes 1553, 1639 and 1725. I don't know, how can I help? Better? Oh yeah, this is better. हाँ सर सर जब मिल जाएगा तो और भी बेटर हो जाएगा. So what we are talking about here is our ask is one, to restrict the distance to 50 kilometers, that all the offtake ideally should happen within 50 kilometer radius. That is one. And if, for example, any specific plant has surplus volume, right, then there are two ways to deal with it. Either the CGD already has an extensive distribution infrastructure, it has its own fleet of trucks and cascades, it can pick it up from our plant ex works basis. Okay, that is one. Or the second is, if the CBG producer also has to deliver it to a particular injection point, right, then that is going to be subject to some additional logistic cost, right? So fairly simple. But the main ask here is to improve the 80% share to a 90% share. That's what we are coming to. Now, how does that impact my APM? My current APM is at 6.55. With a 90%, it becomes 6.57. So it is a $0.02 per MMBTU impact which will happen if we increase the share from 80% to 90%. $0.02 per MMBTU.
Per kg, divided by 23, approximately. Divided by 23.
I'll not get into the kg part because when we talk about sync scheme, everything is on energy basis, MMBTU, right? So that 1380 becomes 1553, right? And this is the impact it has on the APM price, right? Now the other important part over here is we have a big jhol in this additional logistic cost handling. Again, a very creative person has made that additional logistic cost model. Okay. Now why I call that creative again over here is they've again made slabs. Now when I'm delivering 75 to 100 kilometers or 100 to 125 kilometers, I straight away reduce that additional logistic cost from the RSP, right? So what I communicate to the market is you are going to get 5 rupees extra per kg, but the net is 1.2 rupees, not 5 rupees. And in case of a 75 to 100 kilometers where it is told that you will get 6.4 rupees, the net impact is I think about close to 1.8 or 2 rupees ke aspas, right? And interestingly, in the third and the fourth slabs, it becomes negative. Nobody is delivering right now 100 plus, so that is why nobody has experienced it. We have delivered, so I have experienced it. So it becomes negative. So that logistic model is wrong. It's completely flawed, right? So and in case of sync scheme, what happens is, again, the contract has very conveniently included a clause that in case of additional logistic cost, the CBG developer might mutually agree with the CGD. वो mutual agreement कभी नहीं होता है, right? So you are again at the mercy that if something happens, very good. Most of the time, it will not happen. Right? So what we are saying is let's build that additional logistic cost also in the energy terms, in the MMBTU over here. So we are talking about, let's say 3-4 slabs, and we are saying that let's say only 40% of the overall plants will be in this situation who are delivering more than 50 kilometers. Now we can play around with those figures. I'm assuming 40%, somebody might say 20, whatever that figure is. So the objective here is that I'm translating this additional logistic cost weighted average leke, it comes to about 5.84 rupees per kg. And if I translate into MMBTU terms, 122 rupees per MMBTU is what we get for if you're delivering beyond 50 kilometers. Now let's add this 122 into the 15 that 90% of the RSP proposed. उसका impact पहले 0.02 impact था, अभी आपका impact हो जाता है 6.569. मतलब we are not even talking about peanuts over here.
इसमें आपने जो cash projections, you've taken an escalation in the gas price to go up.
Yes.
Is that a published escalation?
No, it's not published, but okay, that's an important point.
Because your numbers are moving from 1380 to 1405 to 1429 across the fiscal. But I don't know if the
One of the-
methodology.
Ek minute. Let
APM is
me answer this. Let me answer. This is an important point. People should understand this. Right now, the APM is at $6.5, right? So the guidance, informal guidance, not documented anywhere. What we've got is that the APM price should be taken to be increasing by about 25 cents per year. 6.5, so it's basically coming from. So if you ask me what authentic source is, there's no authentic source, right? So that's one. The second thing is the way the 7.5% reduction in the allocation, that is also informal. Okay, there is no published data for this.
No, my point is that if this is not a published regulation which says that the gas price will increase or APM will decrease, then the case is stronger to say that the current offtake prices are not making any economic sense. The moment you include an escalation in the gas price which is not formally approved, then your economics start to see a little better and the case weakens. So if I was maybe doing this, I would say that right now I have only visibility of 1380, that's one. And number two, I also don't have visibility on the beyond a 6 month period, because this price has a holding period of only 6 months.
No, but I would have a different take on that. I'm saying even after increasing that price, still the impact is not there. If you stay with 6.5, then it's even better. I mean, I fully agree. I'm saying even after adding all those inputs what we have got that reduce the allocation, instead of 17% growth rate, take 12.5% growth rate, take $0.25 per MMBTU as an escalation. ये सब करने के बाद भी $0.02 cents per MMBTU.
You're saying APM में फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है?
नहीं पड़ रहा है ना. Ultimately आपको APM.
Yeah, and just to add, no, Vasundhara, from our perspective, we are only talking about incremental cost added because of the blending of the CBG into sink scheme. Rest of that is anyway is going to impact the CGD. We are not party to that. Whether APM allocation goes down, despite that, the effort is to calculate the net impact, right? From a CBG perspective, it's just a drop in the ocean which is going into the sink pricing. From a net impact perspective, that's your argument.
That's the net impact. So 0.17, 0.21, 0.23, 0.25.
You want to make
and just I want to add to what ma'am said. This 6.5 is a published figure, ma'am.
Yeah, 6.5 is published, but rest all is not published.
No, as per the recommendation of the Kirit Parekh committee. So you can find this on the MOPNG website. There was a report that came in on 7th April 2023. And how the price will hike after this regime of Kirit Parekh ends, there is a clear directive on that. From the year 2026 and 27, this price will increase. So this 6.5 is actually, there has been a floor and ceiling that has been set to the domestically produced gas. So this 6.5 is the ceiling price. There is a floor of $4 per MMBTU, and this $6.5 is the ceiling price. The actual price comes to somewhere around 7.5. But this is the ceiling price, so that is why it has been taken, and it is published by the government. Yeah.
And what we also understand is still the tolerance to some extent is going to be there up to when all of these, after factoring in all these cost components, even if it is going up to $8, which will happen if all these things take place, will happen somewhere around 28, 29 onwards. So till then there is a tolerance to absorb even with the increased share. Though the contributing factor from CBG is almost nothing. Yeah, so the message being there is enough buffer and enough room to improve let's say the pricing of the CBG over here. The idea is not to look at who's that somebody is earning more than I am earning. That's not the intent, but it's you've got to have a very clear picture of what the numbers are actually looking like. I would say it is about 80-90% accurate, not 100%. And why we are asking for that is because the other revenue streams are not yet activated. There is still no clarity on what's going to be happening with the monetization of FOM. It is again to some extent on paper. It is not fully regularized. Not everybody is getting that money. So there is no concept of green monetization yet. So the entire burden of your revenue stream is on the gas, right? So that is the reason why this is there is a very strong need to make it better. And hopefully we'll have the last round of discussion with the ministry. One is there today afternoon, and hopefully the concluding part will happen next week. So we are expecting some positive outcome, wherein this 80% needs to be made better. What that better is going to be, we don't have any update on that, so I don't want to give any speculative news on that. So this is where this is my input on the pricing part. If Mahesh, you would want to add more to it, and then we'll see here the ethanol story.
No, I think nothing on that. It's the common document. So no comment on this part. This is clear. We are part of that.
Any questions of what you? Yeah, Kevin.
Just to understand it, stepping back a second. So, who picks up the difference, albeit it's tiny volume at the moment? If I can buy natural gas that's imported at $6, 1380 is $15. Isn't it? So who picks up the $9?
CGD. So it goes into the national sink price calculation, that it get distributed among the 19% of the total gas sold in the country, right? Whatever we are producing, this impact goes mixed into the sink price overall, national level sink price, and that impact here shown is very, very small.
Yeah, I understand. Yes, it doesn't affect if you play it back to the $6, but from India's point of view, it's paying a mixture of $6 and what's imported natural gas.
Yes.
11, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm doing it 6, 11, and 15, and the US is at $1.50. I mean, overall, what it tells you is we need a carbon tax, doesn't it?
So,
that'll solve this overnight.
Correct. So just to add one more dimension to that, as the APM quota is reducing, right? The CGD need to fill that requirement through RLNG import. And if you look into RLNG import, landed cost after all the taxes, on a rupee term, it reaches to about 73 rupees. If an inland CGS is actually taking the RLNG from Bombay High to one of the CGS, their landed cost would be 73 rupees at CGS station. From CGS, you need to transport it to RO, the pump, and there another tax gets added, okay, as well as you have to compress it to 250 bar to feed into the vehicle. So that cost actually goes more than 100 rupees if you simply replace with RLNG. But that's more complex work, because in that case there is a taxation impact also is coming, which in the sink gets nullified because sinks absorbs all the taxes.
And right now the CGD gets this gas at the APM price.
Yeah.
I think you're looking for that, right?
The bottom line was that there has been, in the entire coordination committee mechanism, there has been CGD representation as well, and there has been a lot of us versus their discussion that the cost is increasing. That's the reason to come up with this total calculation, that we are transparently able to see how much you are able to make money. We are not saying you should not make money. We are saying that giving another 10% RSP more is not going to impact much. It's not a game changer for anyone, honestly, but it will help the CBG industry to sustain till the time all other revenue stream become real, which is not real. Even on FOM, LFM, it's not just policy issue, Ashish. It is also scale issue. Even if the policy is working, you are not able to going to sell all FOM in 1 year. You have to create demand from the farmer. Even if you give bulk or whichever, it's a 2-3 year journey. Agriculture doesn't happen overnight, Right. Farmer need to experience and then buy. So it's a gradual build-up happening.
So just one point then, won't the gas company say that you are showing it so profitable, why don't you do the retail sale yourself?
Yeah, of course they will say it, but you can't do everything. I mean, the CBG producer knows to make gas. Then I should also be laying the pipelines, and I should also be selling.
Just to straight answer to that, if I am given APM, if me as a company, I have 5 plants, if they give me APM price, I can blend my CBG and be alone. I don't need any support. I can create my own RO. because then I need to get same price what CGD gets. I cannot be only selling CBG and competing against subsidized APM price. I'm okay to get the APM price and blend mine. It's okay. We don't need, honestly, I'll show you calculation, we'll be better off.
And there are some CGDs who are also setting up CBG plants, also to get this advantage.
Yeah? No, but that's what we should propose that fine. We can sell our own gas, but then give us the APM quota as you are giving to CGS, CGD. You're okay.
See, the ground reality is
Right.
also if there are 110, 112 plants which are functional today, I think 80% plus of them are less than 5 TPD. Now,
then it
you
is,
can't expect that 5 TPD plant to also start investing in. So then, I mean, why do you need anybody? You do the feedstock also, you produce also, you sell also, and you consume also, na?
Maybe you can get into local transportation business.
So, I'll request Tamakji to share his.
Actually, just one question. There are lots of these
Entities that are setting up CBG plants, so the CGD entities are also thinking, the OMCs are also thinking to set up the CBG plants, and when they are doing their own captive establishment, that generating their own gas and consuming it also, what is the view they are taking on the price?
What is the view they are taking on the price?
Because to them it's a cost as well as a revenue, so how does that work out for them?
See, ultimately they will follow what the policy states, right? But for them it's a left pocket, right pocket.
So that's my question, is there any
so-
view that they're taking on
No.
restricting the the ask on increasing the price from 80% to 90%? Because to them,
Sorry, what was your last part? Are they?
see, for an entity which is generating its own gas, right, which is also an obligated entity, for example,
Right.
it's a conflict of interest because on one hand they get a higher revenue from sale of gas, on one hand they have to pay more.
Yes.
So what is their view on the increase from 80% to 90%?
See, my impression on that is,
I can tell you.
my impression on that is all the OMCs, they are not thinking, okay, I've got to be careful. So,
Yes.
there's a mandate on them. It is not a willingly that I want to get into this business because there are, it's an attractive segment to get into. There is a bamboo which has been given 195 plants set up karne hai, so you are not thinking, you have to do it. Am I right?
That's what I thought.
Khare Saab?
Just to
So
add,
he is party to this
Mahesh
comment.
was quite-
No, I'll add to that. They have not seen the reality on the ground. Those who are operating the plant, knowing the reality on the ground, what kind of cash flows are coming. Once these OMCs plants come upstream, 10, 15, then those BUs who are running those plants will face the same issue. And they will have an internal discussion on this, and they will have to come and develop the industry. Whatever investment, it's still going in joint venture. So they will also be supporting us rather. I don't say it's negative, it's good, because they will be helping us to actually, get the better policies for sustainability if the 195 plants come up.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
One second.
Sure.
Yeah, please.
A question.
Sure.
I think very rightly pointed out, and the bottom line of this discussion is from a country point of view. This is more from an energy security point of view also, because we are importing more than, if I talk about natural gas, we are importing more than 50% of the gas in form of LNG from outside countries, and that is a huge export bill on us. So even if we are able to reach that target of Satat or CBG, CGD blending, 5%, 10% into our ecosystem, in the natural gas ecosystem, that will be a huge save on the import bill that we are having. So to the bottom line, I think this is a homegrown solution for our country, and all the stakeholders, be it government, be it the players who are producing CBG, or be it anybody else in this whole ecosystem, I think they should come together and they should promote this CBG thing. I am very bullish on this because it is very important for our country to find a solution, because energy में हम लोग बहुत ज़्यादा we are being reliant on the outside countries. So this is a homegrown solution for us. So this can be a next ethanol story for India.
चलिए I shall take it from here. Okay, so first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and my thanks to IFGE for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. And I must compliment IFGE, particularly Mr. Ramakrishna, Mr. Ashish, and Mr. Ganju, of course, who are taking a lot of pains in developing this space. This is not easy, and I can understand and appreciate the pains, particularly in such a developing space. But your passion is there, and please have perseverance. Things will fructify. So I am supposed to share my experiences on ethanol. I am once again, just for brief introduction, I am Roshan Tamak. I am Executive Director and CEO of Sugar and Ethanol Business of DCM Shriram, and I am in this sector since last 37 years. So, as far as ethanol is concerned, I have seen all the phases, and just for information, when Srimati Indira Gandhi was Prime Minister in 1970, this demonstration of ethanol truck was given to her. So I'm just trying to correlate. In 1970, and IIT Delhi, this young man, you are in IIT Delhi? One professor had given that demonstration and it was appreciated. In Brazil, this ethanol story is going on since long, 40 years, 50 years. But why it was not picked up in India? There is a moment for everything to take off. So what I mean to say, that we know that this is going to happen, but some people need to accelerate that. And onus depends upon policymakers more. Dr. Mishra is here. Dr. Mishra, right? So, some policymakers have to take some bold steps, otherwise it will not happen. And particularly whether it's a developing business or a new space, we have to take a different view. It is not pure numbers. Ashish is fully on numbers. He has explained it so nicely. He is totally immersed and involved in all these numbers. So he has done PhD in these numbers. So I will be talking more on principles. And principles will start from that point. One is, of course, energy security for a country like India. Is absolutely critical. That too a developing economy. Second, the natural part, green molecule. Third, supporting agri-economy, which is the base of our economy. We are supporting farmers. Next is environmental concerns. Every citizen deserves to breathe fresh air. So environmental concerns are equally important. And Mr. Kevin has pointed out, he's so passionate about soil health. If soil will not remain healthy, what will be the future of agriculture? So these are all vital issues on which this story needs to be built up. Therefore, as far as principles are concerned, it's not mere about numbers. Of course, energy value need to be captured. Basic energy value, that is the base. Over that, premium should be given being a green molecule. And third, the uncertainty prevailing in this sector, particularly of offtake of gas, offtake of manure. Where is the certainty? No certainty at all. Because the ecosystem is not fully developed for offtake. Vehicles have to be made compatible, stations have to be put in, so that ecosystem is not existing. If capacity utilization of the plant is getting hit due to limited offtake or constraints in offtake, or in organic manure also, then how, from where the viability will come? So viability cannot come. And these, they must confront these numbers in spite of so much push by the government, why the plants are not fructifying. Just we are talking about ethanol. Ethanol was languishing like this only. For information of all the august audience over here, in 2014, about 5% blending was there. And, sorry, in 1.5% blending was there. And in 2018, 5% blending was there. Today, yesterday figure has come out, it is 16.8% blending. Such a miraculous growth. And this program can be termed as successful by any standards. But for that, government has created that, developed that enabling ecosystem, policy support on all fronts. First of all, fair remunerative price. That is the base. If economics is favorable, everything will follow. Entrepreneur will do his best and then make it happen. But that is the basic minimum. Second, creating infrastructure for offtake. And here my suggestion is just to make things simpler. Let's not involve into all this transportation issue. There could be only two suggestions. One, either take from my factory, ensure 100% offtake. And second, or reimburse transportation in full. No midway, nothing. This is all, this will not work. Simple, these two suggestions should be workable, because otherwise, this is a regular process, and if fermentation is continuing, I will have to flare gas if offtake is not there. So my capacity utilization will be hit badly, and financial viability will not come. So we will keep on cursing like this only. So in transportation, my suggestion is this. On pricing, my suggestion is this. There's these four elements rather: base price, energy value, then premiumization being a green molecule. Third is, of course, new business, because financial, there are uncertainties around. And fourth is all those 5 points: foreign exchange saving, energy security, environmental concerns, benefit to farmers. All those stuff should be also be given some consideration while fixing the price. So this should be taken care. And as far as ethanol is concerned, numbers are in front of us. $4 billion investment in this space, and so quickly, last 4 or 5 years. So things can certainly happen at a very, very faster rate if policy support is there. And in policy, one more thing, that policy predictability and assurance is absolutely required. There should not be any flip-flop. So first, bold step by policymakers have to be taken, and secondly, policy assurance should be there. Because business is run on hard financials, and no bankers will finance if it is not profitable, and no entrepreneurs will come. Last point is sugar industry. Sugar industry is ideally suited for the CBG space. We have 500 plants. But how many plants? 7, 8 plants have come up, and those are not of big scale. Why? This hesitation is there. No other hesitation. Feedstock is ready, everything is ready. So the basic concern is that we are producing 16 million ton press cake, and that is readily available with for CBG production. Very easy and compatible and homogeneous feedstock. So, but this is the hitch, and I hope with your efforts and perseverance, things will certainly fructify. But the only take is that policymakers need to take bold steps. Otherwise, it will not fructify. This is a hard fact, because there are so many challenges. Liquid fertilizer, for example, this itself is a challenge. So challenges are more. Therefore, we have to be little more liberal and a little more bold. This is the point. Thank you very much.
So we'll conclude this session now, unless there are some questions anybody has. Okay, so we'll conclude for lunch, and then I think we'll reassemble around 2:30. Right, thank you.